One of them. Imagine being told to pay child support for a kid that is not yours or go to jail. That was the order the state handed down to a Detroit man.
So today he turned himself in, but here's what happened when 7 Action News reporter Kim Russell went with him to court.
Carnell Alexander walked into the Frank Murphy Hall of Justice knowing in moments he could lose his freedom.
I stayed up all night, couldn't sleep, thinking about it.
Carnell is a wanted man because he refuses to do what the state orders and to pay child support for a child that DNA tests prove isn't his. A child he doesn't even know.
I haven't even had a chance to really speak to him except for one time when we took the DNA test.
Nonetheless, right now, under the law, he's a deadbeat dad. Today, he turned himself in to the judge as ordered.
Scared because I've been before this judge before.
But this time he had attorney Cherika Harris, who volunteered to help after seeing his story on 7 Action News. The judge said he will not go to jail for today.
Thank you. Thank Ms. Harris. And hope that we can resolve this soon.
I'm just trying to help him with his future.
Though the threat of jail is on hold, it is not over. Carnell Alexander still owes more than $30,000 to the state for a child that's not his because the mom wrote his name down because she needed to name someone in order to get welfare benefits.
And I had to put him down as the father. That was the only way I can get the sister.
Now,
I'm almost homeless. I'm almost in jail. I'm out of work.
Okay, so the next time you guys hear anybody talking about how rough it is being a woman, the next time you guys ever hear somebody saying that women are oppressed, or you hear some woman talking about the plight of women and how it's unfair, I want you guys to show them this video. This is what I talk about. This is why it's very difficult for me to have sympathy towards the woman's plight. Not because I'm a bad person, but because stuff like this is not a crime. It is not a crime to commit paternity fraud. It's not a crime in any way, shape, or form for a woman to say, man XYZ is the father of the child, and then start collecting money from that man. This is essentially legal extortion. And when it comes down to it, they're not going to stop the payments until they see fit. Even if you do a DNA test like this guy, he got the DNA test done and they were like, oh, okay, well, you're not the father, but you still have to pay us because we ordered you to pay us. I want you to think about how ridiculous that is. That's like somebody saying you committed a crime. They put you in jail and say, okay, you got to do 10 years in jail. And then within the first, 2 years of your sentence, it comes out, oh, he actually didn't do the crime. He's got the DNA evidence. But then they say, well, we're going to keep you in jail until you serve the time just because. They still want this man to pay the child support that he owes, right? So this man owed child support. That's why this thing became an issue. He's not paying the child support because the kid isn't his. He has the DNA to prove it. So he stops paying. So the child support keeps ticking over and he has to make this big fuss to get this to go away. They acknowledge that the kid is not his, but they're still going to make him pay. This is absolutely bonkers. And this was one of the things that Donald Trump actually was talking about kind of erasing. Like he was mulling over, overhauling child support laws, but he's not going to touch that because child support is too integral to, the state and local judiciary. It makes them too much money. This is one of the things that you're never going to see change. And this is one of the reasons why men are not about to start getting married. I know some places like Florida are trying to abolish lifelong alimony, but that's just one thing. The paternity fraud needs to be a crime. And child support, that whole system, the family court needs to be overhauled. And they're not going to do it because it's far too lucrative. And I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of men getting married anytime soon for just this reason, because this is not a crime and it's completely bonkers that it's not.
Bad bitches, like, they want bad bitch shit.
Yeah.
But the bad bitch shit, the game is up. So they're able to see like, oh, she got a wig. She got this outfit from this one. It made the ugly bitches think that they deserve the same thing it made everybody think they on the same playing field. So nobody wants to play that level anymore. Like an ugly bitch right now that knows she ugly. Like let's not say ugly, a fat bitch, right?
No. Say it this way: a less attractive to your liking.
No, a less attractive to they liking, because people pop out the house knowing what they feel and look like off the rip.
That's not true.
Because people lying.
No, bro. I really feel like, bro, beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Name me a woman that everybody think ugly that you think is beautiful. Exactly. So with that being said, and we ain't got go ahead, get it.
Like my
You know what's crazy? This conversation between Cam Newton and this guy, I'm not 100% sure who this other guy is, but this conversation is very much indicative of who we are as an American or Western people. We are very comfortable telling men where they fall short. We're very comfortable saying a man is either physically short, therefore he's unattractive. We're very comfortable saying women are allowed to have their preferences with height. We're extremely comfortable with telling our daughters, our sisters, our moms, whoever, all the women in our society that they should not have anything to do with a broke man. We openly discuss how much money a man needs to make, and we have the phrase that men are economically attractive or unattractive based on that. When it comes to measuring men, we measure them in every way, shape, and form. We even undress them and say how endowed they need to be. We don't care how that affects men. We don't care how it affects boys. We don't care how it affects any person of the male species. We really don't. Now, when we start talking about women, all of a sudden, we have people like Cam Newton who want us to be toned policed. They want us to always be very selective in how we talk about women. He doesn't want to call women ugly, but let's be realistic. Just like you can have a man who is objectively tall, he's 6'2", 6'3", by all objective measurements, that person is tall. You have women who are objectively attractive or unattractive. He's talking about, he's trying to relegate the statement to, somebody being unattractive by the other guy's standard, the standard of the man who's talking about the women. But let's be realistic. We're allowed to have preferences and we're allowed to judge women. There are women who simply do not qualify for the treatment that other women might qualify for. There are women who are grossly overweight. There are women who have big foreheads, who have, ugly features. Just like you can have an ugly man, you can have an ugly woman. Like I'm just so sick of not being able to call women ugly. And it's not because I just hate women or anything like that. I'm not trying to be anti-female when I say this. I'm just being objective. Just like there's men out there who they don't qualify for a certain woman because they don't have the right money. They don't have the right social class. They're not in the right social class. They don't have the right educational standing, whatever the case might be. We know we put barriers in front of men and say, you have to climb this barrier to get to this woman. But all of a sudden, when it comes to the woman getting the man, every woman magically qualifies. And I'm just 100% sick of that. And I'm sick of the tone policing that goes into talking about women and how they look and how they qualify, whether they do or don't.
Oh my God, leave me alone for just 5 minutes. I have a girlfriend for 2.5 years. Ever since we've been together, she always tried to do everything with me as often and as long as possible. Be it brushing teeth, showering, studying, sleeping, eating, literally everything. She always persists that she drives me to and from the station when I go to college classes. Basically, we spend every minute together if I'm not at work or college. So, here's the problem. I should be feeling great about all this. I don't. I'm currently at work until 11 p.m. I can't go to her place tonight because tomorrow I'll have to go to a mechanic, so there's that. My plans for tonight was to just relax, work out, play some Minecraft, and go to sleep around 1 a.m. since I don't have to wake up early. After a streak of weeks filled with studying, working, and spending time with her, I thought I'd have some time just for myself to spend entirely alone. Nope. She just texted me that she will come to my place. She not problematic, she's just insanely needy. All
right, so you guys saw that post. That was a Reddit post that I converted to video. I don't know how much you guys know about needy women. This is essentially what this guy is describing. He's describing his girlfriend as being extremely needy. She won't give him a moment's peace, and he feels a type of way about it. I'm not going to go too deep on why women are needy and everything like that, because there's a lot of different reasons. You know, if you're married, if you have a girlfriend, if you've dated around, you might have run into a needy woman or two. And there's a lot of different things that cause that, whether it's abandonment issues, family issues, daddy issues, mommy issues, you know, whatever the case might be, trauma this, trauma that, whatever. I'm not going to go deep on that. I'm just going to simply say, if you listen to this guy's story, he seems pretty motivated. You know, he's got his own apartment, he's going to school, and he's working. So this guy is getting, I don't know if he's getting to the bag quite yet, but he seems motivated and he seems driven. And that's a strong indicator that this guy has a good trajectory in life. And a lot of times women will become needy in order to project onto you. They see that you are resolute in following the path to success. You're working, you're going to school, you're doing your thing, and you're not letting things get in between that. And then you're making time for them. What they want to do is bump one of those priorities, or what they want to do is project onto you how much they love you. That way you will start loving them. You will be just as dedicated to them as you are to all your other things. That way, when you become successful, you feel this really strong attachment to them, and then they don't lose you, right? So they don't want to do anything necessarily to provide value. They just want you to be emotionally attached to them. That's why she's driving him to the station and she's doing this and she's doing that. And she wants to spend time. That's the only thing she can do. So she's going to give attention in order to become, I don't want to say an emotional anchor, but to be emotionally welded to this guy. That way, when he takes off, she's on board, right? And that way he won't easily, just get rid of her whenever he becomes a doctor or lawyer or whatever he's studying to do. So like I said, I'm not gonna go too deep on that. That's just one of the reasons. And if you've dated around, you know that to be true.
Can somebody explain to me why it is so hard to go to a sports bar to find actual seating to possibly meet a man who's gonna buy me a drink? Let me know. My friend and I have gone to 3 different bars. Let me know why it's so difficult. At this point, should I go home?
All right, so we have Brooklyn Barbie over here talking about why it's so hard to go to a sports bar and meet a guy. Let's be realistic. We just looking at this woman, you can tell she's had her lips done. She's had her cheeks done. She's probably had her chin done. She's definitely had her nose done. So this woman has 5 pounds of plastic just in her face alone. And this is before we start looking at what's on her chest and what's on her hips. With these women, the unfortunate thing about what's going on in today's society is they want everything just the way they want it whenever they want it. On one hand, you want to be able to go into a sports bar and you want to get approached by a guy, you want to get drinks bought for you by some guy, but then you want to also regulate who's the guy. You don't want the normal Mo to walk up to you and offer you a drink. You want somebody who's 6'3", got a big old beard, looks like Henry Cavill or something like that. Like, you have an idea. And we all know how the argument goes. It's harassment if the guy is under 6 foot. If the guy is over 6 foot, it's only creepy if he's not offering to pay for stuff and give her stuff. Like, we all know. And this is why it's becoming difficult for women to find these guys. And now they're hopping online and they're talking the talk and they're saying men aren't approaching. But it's like, this hasn't happened overnight. This hasn't happened within the last 6 months, the last year, the last 6 years. This has been going on for over a decade. Like I said, I did 10 years in the military starting in 2006. And it was like that back then. And it went completely off the rails by about 2014. That was 2 years or a year or so after Instagram came out. So once Instagram really took off, women lost their minds. And now they're feeling the ramifications of their delusion 10 years later. And now it's time to suffer. The bill has come due.
I like to operate on data, not my opinions. So this is data on women's happiness based on their marital status and the amount of children they have. According to the study, the women who have the highest rates of happiness are married and have children, whereas the women who report the highest rates of unhappiness are unmarried with no children. And I think that in our quest to be kind to people and accepting of differences, we've forgotten that it's a kind thing to tell people what is optimal, and this is optimal. And data has been telling us this for years, that women are not liberated or more happy because we can free the nipple or work 40 hours a week at a corporate job. The data tells us that if you get married and you have kids, you will be happier in life. And not everyone will do that. That's okay. And there's going to be a million different ways to be married and to have kids and to be happy. But I just think it's a big fat stinking turd lie to tell young women that men suck, all of them, and kids only take from you. Because the data shows us that the women who believe that are the most unhappy people. So if you want to be happy, if you want to be a rebel in this world, get married and have some kids.
You know, I find it funny when we hear these kinds of arguments that, walk counter to what this woman just said. She's putting out, data that says women are happiest when they're married and their partner and they have the kids and everything like that. And everybody has seen some sort of data to the contrary, depending on who is doing the study and how the study is conducted and everything like that. The metrics, I don't know what the metrics for happiness are, but I guess one of them is kids in a family. And some studies will say women who don't have kids and don't have a family or don't have a husband are most happy, which that just sounds ludicrous to say. And then other studies are like this one that say the women who are married and do have kids, they're more happy. Now, here's the thing. Feminism compels women to compete with men. So I want you to think about this. Only 40% of men throughout the history of time have been able to pass their genes forward. That means 60% of all men who have ever been born did not pass their genes forward. Now, that means something like 80% of women got to pass their genes forward. So 80 to 90% of women are passing their genes forward, which means it's almost a given. Like, as long as a woman isn't tragically ugly, or as long as she doesn't die before having her kids, she gets to pass her genes forward. It's almost automatically. If you're born a woman, you're going to pass your genes forward. Now, every major society, almost realistically, what we can say is every society that has ever risen has been a society based on meritocracy, meaning you eat what you kill. As a man, you will have what it is that you go out there and work for. The more you work, the more you get, the more social status and whatnot you have, the more gold you have, the more women you can have. Okay, we get into the 21st century and all of a sudden we're no longer a meritocracy, we're a gynocracy, we're making everything egalitarian and whatnot. And what's the first thing women want to do? They want to compete with men. And the number one thing that men have always wanted to do, which was get a wife, have sex, make a legacy. All of a sudden, women want to pretend like that's the number one thing they don't want to do, even though that's the thing that every man wants and women were born into. It's like feminism has completely brainwashed women and they have completely lost the plot. And I always find it funny when these conversations come up, because there's no possible way that you can convince me that women don't want the husband and the kids, because overwhelmingly even men want that. It's the biological imperative, but they've been brainwashed into thinking that they don't want it. It's just funny to me.
A lot of people in the hood set their kids up for failure, and let's talk about it, because you could grow up in the hood and still be something with yourself. I know plenty of people that did it. And I talk about it in the ways that most people think, like, the dumbass shit, like putting your kids' names on your bills and shit like that. Yeah, that's fucked up too. But I mean, I think a lot of hood people raise their kids to be hood people too, specifically the boys. And then when something bad happens, they want to act like, oh, I'm so hurt. But truth be told, you raised that boy like that. Everybody I know, just about everybody I know that are either not alive, hood dudes that are not alive or in jail, they showed signs since elementary school. I honestly think that's when it started. I don't think the shit started in middle school. I don't think the shit started in high school. I think in elementary you can tell the signs right then and there. Now, I could be wrong, but that's just what I think. You know that little motherfucker was gonna be a thug. You thought it was cute. You thought that's how black boys supposed to behave. That's why it's crazy when I be seeing people talk about Jada Waiter's son all the time, right? What's funny is I saw somebody talk about Jada Waiter's son. I literally saw her son, this girl. Her son was in the hood last summer with her baby daddy. The boy throwing up gang signs and cussing. And I'm thinking like, bitch, you talk about Jada Waiter's son. I bet Loyal Future is set. But y'all think black boys only supposed to act one specific way. And y'all really think that's okay. Whole time you raising a fucking thug.
You know, say what you will, but this woman is 110% right. You know, I remember when I was a kid, there would be news reports of the gangs, whether it be in Detroit or Cleveland or Chicago or even in LA. You know, I'm from Ohio, but we were still getting all the news from LA because back in the 90s, the gang wars were going crazy and it was making national news. And they were talking about how the gangs were recruiting young kids, like, you know, 12, 13 years old. And they were recruiting these kids at that age and even younger because the kids were young, they were impressionable, and if they committed a really serious crime, they would not do adult time. So this woman's 100% right. This does not start in high school. You know, if you listen to rap music, like what they call drill music, people like King Von and Lil Durk. King Von is dead. Lil Durk is in jail facing capital murder charges like murder for hire, stuff like that. If you listen to this kind of music, these kids, they become serial deleters by 14 and 15. These kids got famous rapping about deleting their ops, and their ops were 15-year-old kids. So that means these kids started beefing in middle school, right? So you got to think they're beefing at a serious level at 11, 12, 13. Well, okay, so where did that knowledge come from? Where did that attitude come from? It didn't just pop up one day. These kids were in preschool. They were in kindergarten, and they've never been taught respect. They weren't taught how to share. They weren't taught how to get along with each other. They were all single mother raised. So they were taught that when there's any kind of situation that you don't like, when you're not getting your way, you lash out emotionally. And because they're men, they have testosterone. So that's going to prompt them to be very action oriented. So that's going to bring on the violence. Right? They didn't have any male role models. The male role models they did have were all criminal. These kids learned how to cuss before they learned how to walk. Like these kids are monsters in the hood. And you see it. You see these kids, they grow up and you see them, the ones that make it, you know, through high school, or at least they get passed through the system, whether they're literate or not. We saw that in the last video I just did. You know, you see these kids, they grow up. And when you see them in society, they don't know how to act. This is why they interact with police the way they do. This is why they'll walk into a store and steal and be surprised when you try to stop them. They don't think any kind of rules apply to them. That hood mentality it's ingrained in them. And I would say the only way to get it out of them is with lengthy prison sentences. But I don't even think these kids can be reformed. Not at this point. It might be too far gone.
I have a theory why women are so attention starved and horned up and want to dress like streetwalkers. I have a theory. Hear me out. Women do all this stuff for attention, even though they won't admit it for some weird reason. They won't admit that they do this for attention. The reason women do this for attention is because they're so bored. They have no hobbies. Women don't do anything. And I know someone's going to be, I do something. Okay, cool. You do something. The vast majority of women do nothing. They don't do anything. They don't play games. They don't do sports. They don't run. They don't exercise. They might go to the gym, but that's also for attention. But that's another topic. They don't knit. They don't crochet. They don't go white water rafting. They don't rock climb. They don't do anything. All they know is makeup, club, lie, cheat, and take money. That's all they know what to do. So are you really surprised that so many women go to the club looking for attention? Are you really surprised that so many women go to the gym dressed like harlots? Are you really surprised? Like, they have nothing else. The only thing they know how to do is garner attention. So, this is why women do the things they do. It's why they're so obsessed with the club. It's why they're so obsessed with, like, you ever look at a woman's Instagram and like, why the hell are you bent over? Like, are you not embarrassed? Are you not embarrassed? your butthole, like you, my guy, you're bent over on Instagram for what? Every single picture on your page is your butt. I don't even know what your face looks like. I don't even know what your face looks like. I met your butt before I met your face. How? How did I meet your butt before I met your face? How? If we get women to get hobbies, I bet they'll stop acting like harlots. If women got hobbies, they wouldn't be harlots anymore. That's the problem. I'm this whole time I'm thinking these women are just super horned up. No, they're bored. All they know is sex, money, drugs. That's all they know because they're bored.
Okay, so this guy makes a pretty good argument. I'm not going to say he's completely wrong. I'm just going to say he's not exactly right. He's halfway right, and I'll explain. So he's basically saying that women dress the way they dress because they're bored, and they do the things they do because they're bored. And he's half right, but the boredom comes on the back end. And what I mean by that is women do what they do and they dress how they dress because they need attention. They need attention because that's their currency. That's how they survive, right? This is their animal brain. This is from the time we were in caves and we discovered fire and everything like that. Women knew they had to put themselves on display for a man to take care of them and to give them resources and to protect them. Right. So everything a woman does is to get the attention of a man and potentially get his resources. They're basically in survival mode at all times, and they want all eyes on them because attention means resources. It means protection. It means survival. Okay. But what happens when you give them the attention and the resources and the survival? What happens when you, let's say, marry them? Well, when you go out there and you marry them, let's assume you're a quote unquote high value man and you marry these women. And all of a sudden you take them out of survival mode. They don't have any of those necessities anymore. They don't need to worry about where their next meal is coming from or, how the house is going to get paid or how the bills are going to get paid. They don't have worries now. That's when they become bored. This is when they start cheating. This is when they start taking their clothes off. This is when they get on Instagram and start bending over. I don't know how many of you guys have ever gone to the club and you've seen that girl who is dressed way more provocative than like absolutely everybody else. And she was dancing way more provocative than everybody else. Guess who she went home with? She went home with nobody. She either went home with absolutely nobody because she just came out with her friends, or she went home to her husband or her boyfriend. That's when they're bored. The girl who's dressed the most scantily clad, the girl who's doing the most at the club, she got a boyfriend at home. She almost always has a boyfriend or a husband at home. She's secure. That's why she's doing it. Now, I understand. It's disrespectful to that guy, but and like I just said, normally women take their clothes off because they're in survival mode. It's a two-way street, right? So let's walk and chew bubblegum here. Both things can be true at the same time. But that woman you see at the club, she ain't going home with nobody because she already has a guy. But she's going to do things to destroy her relationship because she's bored. And that's what's going to put her back into survival mode when she destroys her relationship and she gets divorced and now she's back on the market and she's old and yada, yada, yada. It's just their chaos. Women are just chaos.
Are you gonna walk out?
No, I want you to touch me. Okay. I'm waiting on
That's
you
not
to
gonna
touch
happen.
me.
Wow.
You just say you're gonna physically put me out, right?
No one's gonna physically touch you.
What's your name? Fresh and Fit. Go ahead, put me out.
Yeah.
Put me out.
Yeah. So she stepped on my foot. She did it again.
Oh, what?
Stepped on it again.
What?
So yeah. So
what?
Yeah. She assaulted me. So yeah, go to the police. She assaulted me on camera.
All right, so I don't know how many of you guys watch Fresh and Fit. This happened to Myron from Fresh and Fit like a long time ago. I think this was actually before they got demonetized. And essentially they had to kick this girl out. I don't really know what for. It's probably for all the reasons that they normally kick people out. But sometimes when they kick people out, they get really aggressive. Like the person who's getting kicked out, that person gets really, really aggressive. And this has happened several times on their show. Now, when you have this situation and you see Myron's people they're recording her, she's recording them, but she's refusing to leave. Now in Florida, they have stand your ground laws and things like that. So, this man could very easily, he could protect himself and he could remove her from the premises. But the reason that he can't is because obviously all of this is kind of on live stream. He's a public figure. If you have a situation like this where you put your hands on some woman, and keep in mind, he's using his actual physical domicile, his home, as a recording studio, and he's a YouTube employee technically. You don't want something ugly like that popping out, because no matter what the facts of the case are, it's going to look bad on YouTube, because women will say, this guy, he's a misogynist and he's beating up women and blah, blah, blah. And then it's like kind of on tape and things like that. So you will end up getting demonetized basically because you made YouTube look bad, regardless of the reason, right? That's number one. Number two, this woman, she's going to act like this because she knows you can't put hands on her. So on one hand, you have handcuffs put on you because, YouTube. And on the other hand, you have handcuffs put on you because this girl knows that you can't do anything to her. However, I want you guys to understand, that's the reason. Since she knows you can't do anything, she's going to act like this. Because you guys aren't public figures. When this kind of stuff happens, you can go ahead and hit this girl with an uppercut. Like, she assaulted you in the home. She's refusing to leave your home. You're allowed to defend yourself. And I always just find it funny that women say that the world is so dangerous for them when they're allowed to pull these kinds of stunts and men don't take them to task when they do it. Because if this was the other way around, like not even the other way around, because if it was the other way around, the woman wouldn't be able to get Myron out of her face. No way, no how. But if Myron was doing this to a grown man, he would get deleted. He would get deleted on the spot. It would be fist flying on the spot, right? So when women tell you that stuff is so dangerous for them, show them stuff like this and ask them, why is it that these so-called dangerous misogynist men are out here showing such restraint? It just doesn't add up.
And so I called my boyfriend at the time and I said, hey, can you come pick me up? I don't know where I am. I'm like 40 minutes from the house. We ended up at a different bar. I'm so drunk. I'm so whatever. And he's like, I have work in the morning. And I was like,
that's so beyond.
I know,
like,
it was
that's
crazy.
not okay.
It was crazy. He was like, I've got work in the morning. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll figure it out. And I like hung up and then my phone dies. And I'm like looking around, I'm just drunk as all be. And I see this other girl and she's ordering an Uber. And I go, can you add my stop and I'll pay you back? And she was like, yeah, for sure. So then we get in the Uber, we're going together. He drops her off, the Uber guy, and then starts going to my house, but is going the complete wrong way. So I don't know if Uberman is kidnapping me or if I entered the address wrong because phone's gone now.
Right, yeah.
And so I start panicking. I'm like, pull over, pull over, pull over. So I walk home in that little black dress that I showed you at 3 a.m. It was like 6 blocks or something like that. I finally get home. I'm tequila wasted. And so she's horny. She's interested.
No, after he refused to pick you up?
Yeah.
Cutie, that's so...
It's a new low. It's a new low. After texting her ex, that was the first low. But like, she's frisky. She's feeling crazy. And so I'm like, I roll into bed. I'm like,
hello. Don't show me what you did in bed while we're in bed. Stop.
And so then he wakes up because, he's too tired to pick me up, but not too tired for that.
You should.
And so he started doing that. But then karma's a bitch. I projectile vomit.
In bed?
Okay, now here's the deal. I don't know how many of you guys want to get married at any point in time. I don't know if you have kids who want to get married at any point in time, specifically sons. But if you do, these are the kinds of videos you need to show your son, or that you need to show your brother, your best friend, whoever. This woman is talking about a time when she dated a man, and I guess she went out, she got drunk, and she needed a ride home. And the guy just kind of looked at her like a boss. Like, she called him and he just pulled a boss move and said, I got to go to work in the morning. That man was all about his money and told her to figure it out on her own. And she was 100% okay figuring it out on her own. This dude was obviously a Chad or a Tyrone. He was obviously a man that was, about the mission first. And I'm going to assume he was tall and handsome and this and that, because a typical average man can't get away with that. And obviously their relationship has since ended, but she's not talking about him in bad terms. She's still smiling. She's still giggling when she talks about her, this guy. Her nether regions are probably tingling. So you got to think about this. Your son, your brother, you, whoever, you're going to marry a girl like this. The girl you marry, there's a very good chance she's been accessed sexually by men who had her in a chokehold like this. The worst that this man experienced from her was her puking on the guy after she navigated her way home, after he told her to kick rocks and figure it out herself, got in bed, and then gave the man some intimacy. I want you to think about this. So you out here buying her flowers, cards, and candies, and you out here being nice to her and talking to her about her feelings and marrying her and giving her a whole lifestyle. But this man, he got her prime years. He got her body at her best, her mind at its best. He got the best sex out of her. He got the best everything out of her. And the worst he had to deal with was the one time he told her to kick rocks and he focused on his bag and went back to sleep. And she still came home and gave him intimacy. Now you gonna go over there and wife this up. I'm not telling you that people can't change. I'm just telling you, if you knew this about your wife, your girlfriend, soon to be wife, or your current wife, how would that make you feel? That's what you gave a lifestyle to. You're putting up with all her bullcrap. This man only had to put up with a late night phone call and her puking in the bed, but he got the best out of her. Are you going to get the best out of her once you wife her up? Absolutely not. Now, I'm not telling you guys that this is all women, and I'm not telling you that, you shouldn't get married. I'm just telling you that when you see all this kind of stuff, it's not just this one girl. It's most of these women out here have stories like this where they dated some guy and he treated them like trash and she fawned over this person. And still to this day, if that dude hit her up, still to this day, he would have access to her. He would have sexual access to her. So I don't know how that makes you guys feel. I don't know if you want to get married. I don't know if you are married, but you're going to have to contend with that. So just let that sink in.